You missed some important news from the LGBTQ plus community this week. To ensure you are current, we are recapping that important news. Here's what you may have missed.
Cuba LGBTQ plus community holds huge Pride conga in Havana. On Saturday, around 200 Cubans marched in Havana to the rhythm of a conga, a popular dance protesting against homophobia and transphobia and celebrating the legalization of marriage equality. Chanting, "Socialism yes, homophobia no," demonstrators swayed their hips to the beat and rhythmically beat on drums as they cheered the new family code passed last September. The code permits surrogate pregnancies as long as no money changes hands, and legally recognizes same-sex adoptions, as well as several fathers or mothers, in addition to the biological parents. It also defines marriage as the union between two people rather than that of a man and a woman, while boosting the rights of children, the elderly, and the disabled. Yolien Ballon, a coordinator for the Trans Cuba Network promoting trans rights, said all gays who want to consummate their relationships can do it there. Diana Pena, who organizes the network's youth outreach, said the Conga Pride Parade suited Cuba's spirit. The march was led by Mariela Castro, the daughter of Raul Castro, one of the leaders of the revolution, and a supporter of the family code, alongside Liz Cuesta, wife of President Miguel Diaz-Canel. Cuba's machismo culture was exacerbated in the 1960s and 70s when the government ostracized the LGBTQ plus community, often sending many to militarized agricultural labor camps.
A dire warning as LGBTQ plus supporting businesses may face insurance cancellation.
Julie Mabry always dreamed of running her own bar, and after working hard for so many years, in 2013, she made that dream come true when she opened Pearl Bar. Now, 10 years later, Mabry fears its future might be in jeopardy after an email she received from her new insurance agent.
So they outright denied us, the underwriters, because we host drag shows.
Drag shows was the first thing mentioned in that email, followed by the bar's daily drink specials, with the underwriter stating, "We won't write the risk."
This is the first time I've ever gotten an email like that. I cried about this for about a week.
Mabry says only people who are 21 and older can enter the bar, and they don't allow children inside to watch the drag shows. She believes the current political climate is what's fueling this.
The narrative that we aren't good people, that's what the insurance companies, I believe, are looking at us as a risk. And obviously, at some point, they've decided that we are too much of a risk.
What's more, insuring a bar isn't like insuring a car. A policy isn't automatically renewed. Mabry says bar owners have to reapply each year. She's already paying $60,000 a year for coverage. If the cost goes even higher, she fears the worst moving forward.
Well, the owner of Houston's only lesbian bar says her business is in jeopardy after it was denied insurance coverage, and she's putting the blame squarely on an anti-drag bill moving through the Texas legislature. Mabry has insurance through December, but decided to switch agents a few months ago and shop around for the new policy. During that process, her agent received the denial email, which the agent then sent to Mabry. She added that the drag show issue was the first item mentioned in the email, which outlined the reasons why the underwriter did not feel comfortable insuring the bar. Mabry, who opened Pearl Bar in 2013, said the current political climate fueled her situation. She encouraged followers of the Pearl Bar Instagram account to contact their legislators about anti-LGBTQ bills in the state, including one that would restrict drag shows on public property on the premises of a commercial enterprise or in the presence of a child. Pearl Bar is one of about 24 lesbian bars left in the United States and one of only 2 in the state of Texas, the other being Sue Ellen's in Dallas. Mabry hopes Texas will not be left with just one lone lesbian bar. Florida's Governor Ron Desantis to announce presidential campaign using June's anti-LGBTQ plus Pride Month as his launch message. The moving vans are in Tallahassee, and it can only mean one thing. Queer News Tonight has predicted Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' potential run for President of the United States for more than a year. But we can confirm tonight it's not moving vans that signal the announcement. The Florida GOP politicians and political insiders say it's actually June LGBTQ plus Pride Month that is the signal that DeSantis is getting ready for a major announcement. For weeks, we have been talking to GOP insiders, including state elected officials and GOP advisors, to try to understand the motivation behind the recent months of the Florida legislative session, President Trump's legal challenges, and what the governor will do next. In breaking news, Queer News Tonight can now report that Governor DeSantis will announce his presidential ambitions with intentional timing as a statement against June LGBTQ plus Pride Month. A legislative director for a Tampa Bay GOP senator spoke to me on the condition of confidentiality and said, quote, "All of the pieces are now in place. The presidential campaign announcement will coincide with June Gay Pride. The campaign will contrast the governor's success on issues for parental choice, transgender identity, drag queens, and other LGBT topics, and the visibility of the month-long celebration. The national stage of his success at the last session, combined with the attention the nation will have on Pride Month, is perfect to launch his campaign. The timing has already been determined," end quote. A GOP Florida representative confirmed the same, that the governor's choice to launch his presidential campaign for a June 1 goal line by telling me, quote, "The governor will announce his presidential campaign timed at the beginning of LGBTQ Pride Month. The campaign has discussed privately with us that it will be a key component of the campaign," end quote. Sources also confirmed that the DeSantis campaign used the supermajority legislative session that just ended on May 5th to cement his announcement, largely centered around culture and LGBTQ plus issues, to launch the campaign. These issues include bills he has signed or will sign leading up to June's LGBTQ plus Pride, including bans on drag queens, Don't Say Gay expansion, bans on diversity and inclusion in Florida, including state universities, multiple trans issues, including bathrooms, healthcare, and business and medical exclusions, the so-called woke and race issues, including book bans, and even abortion, women's healthcare choices. The governor was able to easily achieve everything he wanted. Including, yet unannounced, endorsements is another issue. During the legislative session, there were many alleged attempts to pressure members of the Florida House and Florida Senate to secretly endorse the governor leading up to the June LGBTQ plus Pride Month campaign announcement. My source for the GOP senator said, quote, "During the session, he was asked to endorse Governor DeSantis. In discussion about timing and President Trump, there was conversation on waiting. It was very clear that you were either with the governor or you were not. Ultimately, he has pledged an endorsement for the governor," end quote. The Florida legislator added, quote, "When I said I wanted to wait, they made it very clear what they had done to support what I wanted to accomplish and how the governor had done that. At the end of the day, I had to choose, and Trump was not in that picture," end quote. Critics argue that DeSantis' legislative session was designed to create a culture war agenda, get it passed, and then use it to announce his campaign for President of the United States. The remaining question is, why has he planned it this way? The most obvious answer is that it was designed for a more conservative GOP and evangelical base. But this is unusual because both of the leading GOP candidates are from the same state, Florida. Critics explain and argue a likely conclusion is support for DeSantis versus Trump using June LGBTQ plus Pride Month campaign launch. Anti-LGBTQ plus laws passed in this Florida session have a 70 to 80% approval rating from most conservatives of the GOP base. So while the governor was pursuing that, he was also silent on the legal and courtroom crisis that Trump faced. It becomes a perfect storm to launch a presidential campaign. Culture war issues against LGBTQ plus that are passed, Trump legal challenges, and then high visibility of June Pride Month. Add quiet backroom endorsements from most representatives of the Florida Senate and House, and it supports what GOP sources have told me what Governor Ron DeSantis is getting ready to do. The timing of this announcement is designed to fight his #1 rival in his own state, former President Donald J. Trump. I spoke to several leading LGBTQ plus activists in advance of this breaking news story, and they suggested this has always been straight out of the Ron DeSantis playbook. For example, last year during June 22 Pride Month, DeSantis traveled to New York to speak just 1 mile from the Stonewall National Monument to deliver a speech supporting his Don't Say Gay agenda. Dave Abrams, DeSantis' campaign spokesman, on the criticism said, quote, DeSantis will always stand up for what is right and will not be deterred by the radical left, end quote. In 2021, DeSantis made national and international headlines over June LGBTQ plus Pride Month. On June 1, he traveled to a Jacksonville private Christian school to sign a bill banning transgender girls from competing in girls' and women's sports. On the very same day, his Department of Transportation announced they denied the Rainbow Bridge lighting celebrations in both Jacksonville and Sarasota. The next day, on June 2nd, he removed $900,000 from the Florida budget that had already been allocated for programs serving LGBTQ plus Central Florida. And just days before the June 12th, 5th anniversary of Pulse massacre, he stripped away $150,000 that had already been set aside to provide counseling to Pulse survivors. Brandon Wolf, a Pulse survivor himself and spokesman for Equality Florida, said about the governor's June LGBTQ plus Pride Month actions, quote, "It feels like Pride Month at every turn. It has been insult added to injury," end quote. Governor Ron DeSantis will be the first candidate in history to launch their presidential campaign using the celebration of queer existence, the fight for civil rights and dignity, to show the most radical conservatives in America he is the choice over former President Donald Trump. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis celebrates the UN International Day Against Homophobia with a slate of hate bill signings. Florida celebrated the UN worldwide May 17th celebration today of International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia. In Cuba, they celebrated with a conga parade in Havana. U.S. embassies across the world held receptions. France held an educational conference in Paris, and President Biden and the White House discussed today how important standing against hate is for all Americans. So we are not surprised how Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis chose to celebrate today. He did so by holding a bill signing that Equality Florida described as the slate of hate. DeSantis chose to sign House Bill 1069 on Don't Say LGBT expansion, Senate Bill 254, gender-affirming care ban, House Bill 1521, the anti-trans bathroom bill, and then House Bill 1423, the anti-drag bills. The governor and Tallahassee GOP celebrated homophobia and transphobia with this hateful photo op. Equality Florida held an emergency press conference that was attended by Florida and national media, including Queer News Tonight. Joe Saunders, senior political director of Equality Florida, said, quote, This marks the largest slate of anti-LGBTQ bills to be signed in a single legislative session in Florida history, end quote. In fact, today, Governor DeSantis made history for the largest single day of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation becoming law in a single day in American history. Saunders said in advance of the Florida governor's announcement to run for president, quote, "The nation should be on high alert. Today, we are all Americans," end quote. Equality Florida's executive director, Nadine Smith, said, quote, "Any insult from DeSantis against Equality Florida is a badge of honor. We are the resistance. They are trying to divide the LGBTQ plus community. They will not succeed. We are more united than ever," end quote. Then Saunders also made note of the importance in history of May 17th, today, by saying, quote, "Today is an all-out attack on freedom. Free states don't strip parents of the right to make healthcare decisions for their children. Free states don't ban books, censor curriculum, or muzzle free speech. DeSantis doesn't see freedom as a value worth defending. He sees it as a campaign slogan in his bid for the White House, and he is setting freedom and Florida's reputation ablaze in his desperation to win the GOP nomination. The nation should be on high alert. We are all Floridians as DeSantis seeks to export this blueprint of authoritarianism to the rest of the country," end quote. This is how Florida celebrated May 17th and the world's International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, at least in Florida's capital and the governor's mansion.
Let's queer up politics. Gay U.S. Representative George Santos, indicted on 13 charges, pleads not guilty.
Is launched into them. I'm going to fight. I'm getting back to that. I'm going to fight my battle. I'm going to deliver. I'm going to fight the witch hunt. I'm going to take care of clearing my name, and I look forward to doing that. Now, hold on. What do you say to that? I would like the opportunity for some of you guys to ask some questions in an orderly fashion, and we'll start right here. Go ahead, Rachel.
Why would you apply for unemployment benefits when you had a job making $120,000 a year?
Rachel, this is part of my defense.
U.S. Representative George Santos, infamous for fabricating his life story, pleaded not guilty Wednesday to charges he duped donors, stole from his campaign, and lied to Congress about being a millionaire, all while cheating to collect unemployment benefits he didn't deserve. Afterward, he said he wouldn't drop his re-election bid and defied calls to resign. Santos said he planned to return to Washington, where the indictment amplifies doubts about the freshman's ability to serve. House Republican leaders are taking a wait-and-see approach, saying Santos is innocent until proven guilty. Others are reiterating previous calls for Santos to step aside.
Keep watching the only television news in the world from our LGBTQ plus community and stay informed on everything that is important for and about our diverse LGBTQ plus community.